Account here. I wanted to walk you through a demo on how you will be able to create a gesture drawing using the Nearpod Draw It slide. So let's begin. So the first thing that you're going to need to do, okay, you see my cursor here, is come down to the picture box in the toolbar. You're going to click it, and what you're going to need to do is to search for a gesture. This could be running, jumping, kicking, flying, any sort of action movement you want to try and search to get a picture of. And again, we're talking about the human form, so it should be a human running, jumping, kicking, flying, so on and so forth. So let's go ahead. Let's try running. So we're just going to go ahead and put the word into the search bar and search it. So you'll get a whole bunch of different sorts of choices. There are also some other options on the bottom here, other pages you could search from. But I'm going to do running, and I'm liking this picture right here. So I'm going to click that, save it. All right, and it pops up on your screen. So what you're going to do, you're not going to make the picture too big. We want to keep it about half the size of the page, so about that size is good, and then we're going to drag it over to the left. Okay, so we have our gesture drawing, or rather picture, and now we're going to start our drawing. So what you're going to do is you're going to come back to the drawing tool, click the drawing tool. Now depending on the picture you're using, you want to use a color, because you're going to be drawing right on top of the picture, a color that will be clear and will show up. So for this one, I'm actually going to use red. And another thing you're going to want to do, you can kind of see it here, is lower the width of your drawing tool. So I'm just lowering it. Working with a thinner line for this definitely helps. And then just click back on the marker tool. All right, so you're going to come into the drawing, and essentially what you're going to do is you're going to try and break down the gesture in the drawing that you chose into like almost a simple stick figure. Okay, but we're going to be drawing kind of a more complex stick figure, okay, that's going to capture essentially the essence of the gesture in the picture you drew. So let's begin. So I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to circle his head. All right, then we also have his neck. Now the neck is definitely an important part. Okay, our skull connects to our neck, which then connects to our spine. And a lot of gesture comes from that idea, what the spine is doing, okay? A lot of movement in the spine. So I'm just drawing right, kind of trying to figure out where the spine is. Might be a little bit off. That's no problem. Just use the eraser tool and make it a little bit bigger. I'm just going to try that one more time. The neck and spine. So I'm going to bring the neck a little further down here, and then we see the spine's kind of on an angle. All right, to about there where the hip would start. So there we go. So we got our neck and spine. Now we're going to come across the top of the spine here underneath the neck, and that's going to represent the shoulders. So from shoulder to shoulder. His left shoulder is a little tucked behind his chest, but we can kind of get it in the right area. And then we'll start with the arms. So I'm going to move from the shoulder down the bicep to the elbow. So it's a little kind of tuck there. Nice line. Then from the elbow to the wrist, as such. And then I'm just going to draw a small circle to represent the hand. Okay, we're not going to get into any sort of detail work with the hands or the fingers or anything like that. All right, moving on. Okay, we're gonna move to his right arm. So from his elbow, rather his shoulder to his elbow, right about there. And then from his elbow to his wrist. And then again, a little portion just to show where the hand is. Okay. All right, so we got the top half of the body done, looking pretty good. And then we're gonna go ahead and move to his hip, his thigh, and his knee. So I'm gonna use the picture as a guide here. So we see there's this kind of like kind of arched line for his thigh. So I'm going to kind of do the same thing, slight arch from the hip to the knee. I'm also going to move from the knee. I'm going to go around the calf muscle and then down to the ankle. So it gives it a little bit more movement when you bend the line instead of just drawing a straight line like you would and connect the dots, all right? So we have his thigh, his calf and shin, and then we're just going to go ahead and just put something in. Again, using the picture as a guide to represent his foot. Okay, so we have his right leg done, which is in motion, moving forward while he's running. And then I'm just going to come down here. I'm going to add another line around his rear end back down to his knee, because that leg is in the foreground. It's what's closer to us as the viewer, while his left leg here is kind of behind it. So let's move into the left leg. So again, you could draw in over it, but just for the sake of keeping things clear, I'm going to start my line underneath. Remember that thigh right here is blocking the other thigh. It's closest to us, so I'm just going to start it right here on the edge. All right, into the knee. And then again, I'm going to go around the calf muscle, down the shin to the ankle. All right, and then obviously we have his foot. All right, so once you have this, I'm going to go again and make my line a little bit smaller. I'm going to add and try and build out some details in terms of this basic stick figure that I have. So I'm going to start here around his rear end. So we have the thigh muscle, hamstring on the back of his leg, and then I'm just going in and adding in some other details, kind of thicken up the image a little bit. Knee, shin, ankle, a little bit more on the back side there. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead. This guy's got a pretty muscular build to him, so I'm going to try and show a little bit of that. That might be something you want to do also, depending on your character design. So this guy's looking pretty buff right here. Just going ahead and carefully just kind of outlining what I'm seeing. Got that shoulder. Definitely don't want to forget the shoulder and the neck. And then his torso, which is pretty simple, just kind of going around the edge. Again, you can exaggerate it a little bit, make it look like he's a little buff if that's what you're going for. So you have kind of like your loose plan here. So you're going to start first with this, going over the picture that you chose. This is the end result that you want to see. You want to see kind of like a fairly well-drawn, detailed, kind of like stick figure. You don't need to worry about any of the details in terms of the costume or anything like that. And then lastly, what we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to keep my my marker point very small, and I'm going to switch the color. And essentially what I want you to do is to now take what you've drawn here and draw it without using the picture on this side. And you should use the same process. So again, I'm starting at the head. I'm kind of like lining things up here to try and keep the same size drawing. If it comes out a little bit smaller or bigger, that's okay, but try and keep it as close to as you can to the original drawing. So I'm just going to start here with the head, and then I have his neck, and then we talked earlier about that slight bend. He's kind of leaning forward as he's running. We have his shoulders coming across here. Whoops. Little mistake, no problem. Just go back with the eraser tool, then switch back to the marker tool. Okay. So I'm going to start first with that left arm. So from the shoulder to the elbow, and then the elbow to the wrist. And then just something a little to represent his hand. Now I have his other shoulder over to the elbow, and then the elbow to the wrist with something kind of representing his hand in there, okay? And then we have his thigh. So looking back over here, it's just a little bit past his spine. Remember, it's that curved line. All right, and then using the calf as a guide, calf and shin, and then his foot. So I'm just going to kind of straighten this out a little bit. That looks a little bit better. And then draw his hamstring. All right, so we got something cooking here. This looks a little bit wide, so I'm just going to go ahead and make a quick edit. Bring it in a little bit, like so. Remember, always switch back to the marker. All right, I'm just going to bring that line in a little bit. It's fairly simple again. I know it's tricky drawing on the trackpad, but I mean, this is simple enough where we can get it done. So again, I'm moving into that other leg, and then have that other leg here. Just gonna add that extra little line. There you go, and his foot. Okay, so then the same thing that we did over here, we're just kind of building out a little bit more of the musculature of the character. I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to start first with the torso. So that's essentially from the hip to the shoulder. Same on this side. All right, and like we said, this guy was pretty buff that's running, so I'm going to go ahead and just add some curved lines for his bicep as well as his forearm. Same thing over here. I'm making him look a little bit more buff. Going to also add the back of his neck. Really make sure that you have a neck in there. Our heads are not shaped like basketballs. They're more of an ovalish shape, and our heads just don't sit on our shoulders. There's that little gap between our shoulder and our chin where our neck goes. So just make sure that you have that in there. Just kind of wrapping up the building of musculature. I'm gonna edit this hand. This hand looks a little weird here, so I'm just gonna go back and just make it a little bit bigger. Looks a little bit better now. Again, we're not trying to draw a perfect drawing of a human being running. Really, we're trying to capture the gesture, okay, the way that the body is presenting itself to us, the gesture or the motion or movement of the character, okay? So I hope that this was helpful. Again, as always, please reach out. You can email me at matthew.pisicano@bria collegeprep.org with any questions. Have fun. I can't wait to see what you come up with.